Hey, Connie.
Hey,
Hey, and we are back. So, today we're gonna continue on with the I believe it's the Learn CSS Grid by Building a Magazine. Last episode basically we got up to like 31 and then we stopped. Our plan today is to continue on and hopefully we can finish all of that today. So we'll see how it goes really. Yeah, this is kind of the plan.
all right.
So we'll go ahead. Now we're ready to start putting. So yeah, I think last time we done the HTML, so now we're gonna be doing CSS. So um, they want me to select a main selector and given a display property of grid. Cool. Next one. Now you can saw the layout of your grid. CSS Grid is similar to Flexbox in that it has a special property for both the parent and child elements. In this case, your parent element is the main element. Set the content to have a three-column layout by adding grid template columns with a value of 1.494 Orium. So this will create three columns, as we can see here, where the middle column is 94 rem wide, and the first and the last columns are both one fraction of the remaining space in the grid container. So I guess yeah, this is a column. This is a column, and this is a column. Cool. So over here, use the min-max function to make your columns responsive on any device. The min-max function takes two arguments, the first being the minimum value and the second being the maximum. These values could be a length percentage of R or even a keyword like max content. So we're going to wrap each of them of the grid template columns property in a min-max function using each value as the second argument. The first argument should be 2 Orium main content and 2 Orium respectively. So wrap each. So we need min max. So I'm guessing it will be min max. And then it will be this. It won't be a property. It'll probably be like so. I'm just having a guess here, but might be the case. Um try it. So your main selector should have a grid templates. Oh, I see. Okay, I made them. Yeah. So essentially, instead of having that, I have the grid template columns. I just got confused about the wrap. So I thought I was meant to wrap that, but yeah, if I do min max over here. So
It might be that they want us to wrap like the 1FR, wrap that in a min max. Wrap 94 REM, and I'm guessing too. I don't know about what they exactly want. Oh, okay. Yeah.
well, we have a hint down here.
Okay. Yes. When all else fails, use the hint.
So so first of all, they say the columns should be set to first argument should be 2 REM, main content and 2 REM respectively. So first of all, min max 2 REM 1 FR.
Okay, so min max takes two arguments. That's why it's those two REM, which is the min, and the max would be 1FR. And then since your grid template columns takes three places, you have to have those three things in there. Is that making sense?
Yeah. What
Yeah.
does FR stand for again?
fraction. So if you think about the whole space that you're dividing up, you define one of them, the rest are basically going to auto set in proportionately to what's left. So you could set, like, instead of 1 FR at the beginning, 1 FR at the end, you could say 2 FR. I want this first area to be 2 proportions and the last area to be 1 proportion of what's left of the space. If that makes sense. Mm-hmm.
And then
Looks like you need min, max. There, you've got 2 ends.
I can't type today. RAM 104. Right. Okay. Cool. So that passes. Right. So where we're gonna go? We're gonna go into to add space between rows, and in the grid layout, you can use the row gap property. Give the main selector row gap property of free REM. So what we're gonna be doing is between rows in the grid layout, you can use a. So I need to use the row gap property and free REM. Okay. So your magazine should have 3 primary sections. You already set the overall layout in the main rule, but you can adjust the placement in the child rules. One option is the grid column property, which is shorthand for grid column start and grid column end. The grid column property tells the grid item which grid line to start and end at. Create a dot heading rule and set the grid column to be 2/3. Well, it says that, I guess, so I will. Okay. This will tell the heading element to start at grid line 2 and end at grid line 3. Okay. So create a text selector and give it a grid column property of 2/3. Okay. For additional control over the layout of your content, you can have a CSS grid within a CSS grid. So set the display property of your heading to grid. Done. Right, now you can start the content of the heading element with the CSS grid. The CSS repeat function is used to repeat a value rather than writing it out manually, and it's helpful for grid layouts. For example, setting the grid template columns property to repeat 200 pixels would create 20 columns each 200 pixel wide. Give your heading element a grid template columns property and set it to repeat if I can to 1FR. Okay. So give your heading selector a row gap property to and set it to 1.5 REM. Done. Right. So remember that the grid column property determines which columns an element starts and ends at. There may be times where you are unsure of how many columns your grid will have, but you want an element to stop at the last column. To do this, you can use the -1 for the end column. Create a .hero selector and give it a grid column property set to 1/ and that's the ending one. so -1. Okay. Give the hero selector a position property of toRelative. Cool. So now you should remove the temporary width attribute before writing CSS for your hero image. So this one. So create an image selector. And give it a width of 100%. Object fit to be cover. The object fit property tells the browser how to position the element within the container. In this case, cover will set the image to fill the container, cropping as needed to avoid the change in the aspect ratio. So create a .hero title selector. And give a text align property set to center. Color property set to orange, red, and font size to be 8 ARIA. Yes, getting better. Right, so the subtitle also needs to be styled. Create a .hero subtitle and give a font size of 2.4 ARIA. Color to be orange, red, and text align to be center. Text. Oh, I missed. Yeah, I was wondering.
2 L's.
This didn't center. I was like, this is supposed to center. Why isn't it centered? There you go.
There we go. Yeah.
Create an .author selector and give it a font size property set to 2 ARIA. Font family to be railway with a fallback of sans serif. It's a comma. It's a comma. If it's a fallback, it's a comma. There you go. So create the author name. A. Oh wait, what? I forgot these hovers. Oh wait. Okay. A hover, and then I open this up and give a background color property set to then this will create a hover effect only for the A element. So which one is it? This one? I guess it's this one, right? Yeah. This is alpha. Cool. Right, so create a publish date selector and give it a color property to be RGBA 255 255 255 0.5. Cool. create a .social icons selector and give a display property of grid, font size to be 3 rem. Okay. So the default settings for CSS Grid will create additional rows as needed, unlike Flexbox. Give the social icon selector a grid template columns property and set it to repeat to F5, 1FR to arrange the icons in a single row. Cool. So if you wanted to add more social icons but keep them on the same row, you would need to update grid template columns to create additional columns. As an alternative, you could use grid autoflow property. The property takes either a row or column as the first value with an optional second value of dense grid flow. Grid autoflow uses an auto placement algorithm to adjust the grid layout. Setting it to column will tell the algorithm to create new columns for content as needed. The dense value allows the algorithm to backtrack and fill holes in the grid with smaller items, which can result in items appearing out of order. So for your social icon selector, set the grid auto flow property to column. So right, now the auto placement algorithm will kick in when you add a new icon element. However, the algorithm defaults the new column width to be auto, which will not match your current columns. You can override this with grid auto column property. Give the social icon selector a grid auto columns, and we're going to set it to 1FR. So much like Flexbox with CSS Grid, you can align the content of the grid items with align items and justify items. Align items will align child elements along the column axis, and the justify items will align the child elements along the row axes. Give the social icon selector an align items property to center. Okay, so now they've centered. So give the text selector a font size of 1.8 rem and the letter spacing to be 0.6 pixel.
Looking good. I'm just like along for the ride here. You're doing just great.
Yeah, exactly. Are you doing this in the background or have you completed it now?
I'm not doing it in the background. I'm just watching you here. Yeah.
Fair enough. So give your text select a column width of 25 rem. So magazines often use justified text in their printed content to structure their layout and control the flow of their content. While this works in printed form, justified text on websites can be an accessibility concern. For example, presenting challenges for folks with dyslexia. To make your project look like a printed magazine, give the .text selector a text align property to justify. So text align should be Specify. Right. So the first letter pseudo selector allows you to target the first letter in the text content of an element. Create a first paragraph first letter selector and set the font size to be 6 rem. Also give it a color property and set it to orange red. Cool. So the other text is being shifted out of place. Move it into position by giving the first paragraph first letter select a float property set to left. So float left and a margin right to be 1 rem. Okay, cool. So create a HR selector. Yeah, HR, yeah, that's it. And give a margin property of 1.5 rem 0. So to give the HR a color, you need to adjust the border property. Give the HR selector a border property set to 1 pixel solid RGBA. So border 1 pixel solid RGBA 120 20 120 0.6. So create a dot quote selector and give a color property set to a font size property to be 2.4 rem and the text align to be center. So to make the quote text stand out more, give the dot quote selector a font family property of railway with a fallback of sans serif. A quote is not really a quote without proper quotation marks. You can add these with CSS pseudo selectors. So create a dot quote before selector and set the content property to be
I think it's just a single double quote.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So I did that with a space.
With a space.
Okay. Also create a dot quote after selector and set the content property to be it doesn't the read logic is erroring out, but hopefully that will be okay.
You might need your semicolons. I don't know if that makes a difference. Space afterwards. Don't forget that your space afterwards. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
No, the space will be hold on. With a space following it. Okay. Okay. So and again with a space preceding it. So space. Like that.
It looks like that. What they want, semicolon.
I don't know. I followed the instructions. I think this is what I could get. So let's see if this is right.
Oh, you have to put quotes around it.
Oh, okay, yeah. So you have to put single quotes.
You might need your spaces. Oh.
Oh yeah. So essentially, the space isn't really seen here. The space is seen here, and the space is seen here. Cool.
Yeah.
Right, now it's time to start your third section. Note that it has the text and text with images value for the class attribute, which means it's already inheriting the styles from your text rule. Create a text with images selector and set the display property to grid. Right, so you will need to have a column for text and a column for images. Give the text with images selector a grid template columns. Property set to far to
Grid
FR.
spelling.
Let's see. There you go. Thank you.
Yep.
So also set the column gap to be 3 rem to provide more spacing between the columns. Okay, so give the text with images selector a margin bottom property of 33 rem. Create a dot list selector and set the list style type property to be none. So this is going to get rid of the bullet points apparently. Okay. So give the list selector margin top property and set it to 2 rem. Create a dot lists Lee rule to target the list items within your list. Give it a margin bottom property. Give it to 1.5 rem. Create a dot list title dot list subtitle selector and set the color property to be so time to start the last section of the magazine, the images. The images are wrapped within a side element using the image wrapper class. So create a dot image wrapper and set the display property to grid. The images should be within a 2-column 3-row layout. So give the image wrapper a selector grid template columns. set to 2FR, 1FR. Grid template rows to be repeat very min content. This will give our grid rows that adjust in height based on the content, but columns that remain a fixed width based on the container. Okay. Step 74. The gap property is a shorthand way to set the value of a column gap and row gap at the same time. If given one value, it sets the column gap and row gap both to that value. If given two values, it sets the row gap to the first value and the column gap to the second. Give the image wrapper selector a gap property to be 2rem. Step 75. So the place items property it can be used to set the line items and justify items values at the same time. The place items property takes one or two values. If one value is provided, it is used for both the align items and justify items properties. If two values are provided, the first value is used for the align items property, and the second value is used for the justify items property. So give the image wrapper a place items property to be center.
So align, just to remind us, align items is like top to bottom, right? And justify is across left to right. Yeah.
So create an image. One and the image vary rule be and give a grid column property set to 1 minus 1. So
Do you hear the dog snoring again?
sorry?
Do you hear the dog snoring again? Mine.
Yeah, I heard. I was like, what was that noise?
Yeah. This is nap time, so primary.
Is it usually this time? The dog
Yeah, it's like whenever I come up here and do my work, and there's this little
Ah.
bed, and he comes in, so he goes to sleep and snores.
So now that the magazine layout is finished, you need to make it responsive. Start with media query for only screen with a max of width of 720 pixel.
So
I forget how you construct
media queries. You've got, I believe, media queries. You have the open close parenthesis. So in which goes only screen, right?
And more parentheses.
Well, no. Hold on. I think you've got like at media space parenthesis. Let me just double check that.
I think it's at media on your screen though. I thought it was this way. And then within this, you would then have your .image wrapper selector, and then you give it a grid, and within it you give it a grid template columns to be
spaces. Yeah.
1 of 4.
Yeah. Oh. Okay. So min width goes in the parentheses after only screen. or max
with a
width,
max
sorry.
width. Yeah, sorry. I forgot.
Right after screen. Yeah.
Alt S.
Right. Not up there, not in there, but actually right after screen on the first line. Open, close paren, and then you put your max width in there. So I just looked it up real quick.
Oh, another one. Oh, I would have thought it would be here. No?
Well, no, I'm looking at it. It's right after the screen.
Okay.
Before your
Okay,
open
so
brace, right there.
max width should be
Yeah,
here.
in parentheses. Yeah, and then colon the value. Inside the parentheses.
So
Close print, yeah. Then your brace. And then inside that is the element and the style, actually the style rule. So you only need one set of, yeah, there you go. There you go. You need to close off that at media brace. And let me see, select your grid template columns. Yeah.
No.
At media rule for only screen and max width.
Max width. I would say, unless you're meant to have a comma, but what?
Oh, and
Hold on. No, this is probably it.
Only screen and it says, which I wouldn't have thought that. But yeah, you do need the word and right there where you are. Space and space. Yeah, now try. Yeah.
Oof.
I don't do at media queries very often, so I always look them up.
Okay, cool. So create another at media query for train and we then create a .text with images rule and give it a grid template columns property set to 1FR. This will collapse your bottom text area into smaller screens. Oh, for smaller screens, we can't really test it here. Well, we could, but yeah. So create a third media query for on the screen and max width. We then create a hero title with a font size set to be 6 aria. We then create a hero within a dot hero subtitle with
Now that all that dot hero subtitle has a, the highlight of gray has a whole bunch of things there you want to include in that.
right, yeah, selecting other things as well. Okay,
Mhm.
Quote list title selector with the font size of 1.8 rem, and then a dot social icon selector. Oh, wait a second. Dot social selector with the fonts. Oh, yeah, I did. Font size to be 2 rem, and the dot text selector, which will be font size to be 1.6 rem. Cool, that's done. Right, so create one final media query for on this screen with and max width to be 420 pixel, and then we will open this up and create a .hero title selector to be font size property 4.5 area, and that's it. We are done.
Yay!
Right. Cool. Yeah. What's the time? Are we? No, I think we should leave it here.
Yeah.
We can. Next week we will go through and we will do the product landing page. And then we are not far from actually finishing
Getting
that.
there. Yeah.
So yeah, sounds good. All right.
All right.
Well,
Thank you.
yeah, I will see you next week.
See ya. Bye.